Back in the day, and back in the day is like 3 years ago, people were a little bit happier to get a quarterly update. Now it's like, okay, what's happening next month? So
Yeah,
that's the pressure.
it's moving
Folks,
fast.
we're live, everybody. Welcome to episode 316 of Brainfood Live on Air. This is Redux, folks. If you were here last time, we tried to do this show 2 weeks ago, but technical difficulties prevented us from executing. So hopefully now we're actually online and able to speak with everyone here. This, by the way, is a continuation of our mini series where we're challenging the founders of AI recruitment technology companies to show us what they've got. Because the bottom line is, we all need to know about what the world of recruitment technology is offering recruiters. We're hearing a lot of rhetoric, but let's see the reality. And this is what this mini series is all about. So, Michael, good to see you here. Thank you for confirming, by the way, Crowdcast is good. Just want to do a few sound checks real quick. I want to make sure everyone can hear and see me okay. We're obviously live on Crowdcast, but we're live also in multiple places, LinkedIn primarily. So I see a lot of people watching this on LinkedIn. If you could just let me know in comments whether the audio and visual is fine wherever you're watching it, that would be really good. I just want to confirm that we are able to hear and see everything okay. Thank you, Stephen. Well, good. This is all good. Okay, cool. Let me introduce our guest today. It is David Head, none other than David. Wonderful to see you on screen. Why don't you quickly introduce yourself? Who are you? What it is you do?
Yeah, great to be here, Hung. I'm David, co-founder and CEO of Endorsed. We're building AI technology to help recruiters recruit better talent more quickly and more efficiently.
Fantastic stuff, David. And if you could just describe very quickly what Endorse does for the people who don't understand, how would you summarize it?
Yeah, I mean the really simple way to put it is it's an AI assistant that can help you do sourcing and applicant review workflows much more effectively. Um, the details, of course, are much more advanced and different, which I can show you here in a minute. But that's the simple gist of it.
Yeah, cool. Let's go down to a little bit of a kind of origin story, David. What do you remember the moment when you thought, okay, this is going to be a thing? Like it must have been percolating in your mind. You thought, okay, why don't we fix this? And then you thought, actually, we can fix it. Do you remember specifically when that moment was?
Yeah, it was actually in 2018. I've been working on building the best talent search platform since then for about 7 years. So I was working on a freelance marketplace startup at the time. It was we had about 3,000 clients. It was working really great as a product, but the business had some problems to it where we just weren't making enough money on each customer. And despite them being super satisfied, the nature of how it was kind of small scope work. So we're thinking, all right, let's pivot. And I was in Y Combinator at the time with my co-founders, and they help you think really big. And at the time, it was like, all right, well, what is like the most impactful talent search platform in the world look like? And if you look at the status quo, you have LinkedIn and Indeed. So it's like, all right, what's the next best talent search platform beyond those? Um, had a bunch of ideas about that, which I could go into, but really decided at that point, like I want to actually just dedicate my career to solving this. It was interesting enough. I saw their I really thought like the best people in the world aren't getting hired for the job. Like the matching algorithm of the world is actually really inefficient. There's a lot of room to improve. So we worked on pivoting the platform over to that, but we were like 3 years in. Even though we had like the venture backing, we were just funding it on our own at that point, and we started to get traction, but it just was we just couldn't keep going with it at the time. So um, at that point, I was like, I want to just keep working on this. I'll join other startups that seem like they're going to build this or could build this as an employee, and joined two startups. Just kind of cold emailed the CEOs of each of them. Like we need to work together, um, and then built some great tech there. But I ultimately realized I was like, I just actually need to found my own company because if unless you're the founder and CEO, you can't take like the big swings on the crazy idea. Like founders have their own visions, which is why they start companies. So you have to do that. And then I also realized that marketplace is not the way this is going to happen. It's going to be just a pure software company that starts. So Taught myself how to code on the weekends and was just like, all right, I need to start building this. And then two great things happened, which were one, ChatGPT and LLMs came out, which accelerated me learning how to code, and then also unlocked all these new ways to use data and build algorithms to do matching. And then secondarily, my two co-founders were also ready to do startups. One of which, Kevin, was at LinkedIn on the profiles and search team as an engineer there for 7 years, so he knew how to build all this tech really well. He'd also worked on startups, and then my co-founder Jake had hired about 60 engineers under him at Ep316 and was knew how to build high performing teams, super technical, also could help us go from 0 to 1, had the startup experience. So at that point, it was like, all right, full steam ahead. Let's build this thing.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. Great story, man. I didn't realize that this is all happening sort of contemporaneously with obviously the big bang of ChatGPT being released. When you first saw ChatGPT, like what came across your mind? Like when you started playing with it, how did it make you feel, and what did you realize when you started playing around?
Uh, Initially I was like, this thing seems like it's pretty cool. I think it was like GPT 3.5 or something like that. I was like, it seems pretty cool. It's like I'm learning how to code faster, but it's pretty frequently wrong. So it has issues, but I see the promise. Then, GPT-4 comes out and it's like, oh, wow, it's a lot smarter. And then just kind of see the acceleration of how this is going to transform things. So uh, I knew that it was I knew that it was going to be a pretty big deal then, and I actually was an early user. I was like one of the first 500 users on GPT-3 when it came out, and like it was like I think it was like 2020 or 2021. So even then, it was like, all right, there's something here that's gonna be big.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. And yeah, great that you've just plowed on forward and produced Endorsed. Fantastic stuff, David. Before we actually do a demo and look into it, can you give us some context as to where the platform is right now? Like, what is what kind of customers are using it? Who is using it? What are they using it for?
Yeah, so the platform right now it's built out for AI applicant review and now AI sourcing. It can do outreach for you, can do fraud detection. The customers that are using it, primarily the first customer segment that we're building for here is really like the venture backed tech startups that are like kind of Series A to D, recruiting aggressively, recruiting top talent. There are a bunch of reasons for this, but we're focused on them to start and building something really, really powerful and then expanding that power out to everyone else. So we have predominantly those people using it, but we also have agencies using it, some like venture capitalists, some companies outside of tech. So it's still a diverse pool, but primarily the tech focus.
Yeah, absolutely fair enough. Okay, David. I just checked out the website and on the drop down, the number of products there. It looks like you're rolling out products at a rapid rate. Why don't we take a look? Like, choose one of those products. We can dive straight in and we can show people basically what we mean when we say, okay, here's 1,000 AI recruiters on demand. Okay, big statement. Let's have a look.
Yeah, sure. So we can start off with the sourcing workflow, then shift over to app review, and I can talk about the fraud feature. And yeah, I have recording of a real use case here. I'll flip over to where I can show you and talk through it. So let's see, screen share. Cool. Can you see this?
There might be a couple of second delay, but I think so. Yes, I can see it on my screen. Folks, can you see a David screen? Let me know if you can. By the way, if you can also increase the size of the screen. Just hover over the window and there should be an expand full screen for people there. So go ahead and do that if you wanted to get a bigger view. So maybe that will help as well. Okay, David, what are we looking at here? Talk me through it.
Yeah, so this is a jobs page, and Endorsed is synced on top of your ATS. So that's the key. Is we basically built this interface, this search platform and AI that searches for talent and then connects to your ATS, so you can handle downstream workflows there. So if we were to focus first on the sourcing job and click into that, what we see here is we first come to a filter step. And before I even go into this, I want to talk about how Endorsed is a different workflow. uh, you have to put yourself in a different mindset when you're using Endorsed, where you are not a reviewer of applicants. You are a manager of AIs that are going to do the review for you. It's fundamentally different. This is the most important thing about Endorsed whenever I give people demos and onboard them is instead of thinking let's narrow down with like keyword searches and filters, 100 candidates here, expand out, look at different pools. We're going to draw one big circle around like our whole talent market of people that we could potentially hire, because then we can have the AIs just review everyone all at once. So that's what we're going to do here. So one of the first counterintuitive things is I'm actually going to expand my total years of experience out, even though I probably am going to hire someone 4 years plus. Why? Because if we expand our pool out, that gets us with people with high slope. Maybe only 1% of people are like really fast learners and really high caliber people in the sense. We want to catch those in our search. We don't want to accidentally filter them out. And this role, of course, is like a senior backend engineer, Series C unicorn startup that we're fictionally hiring for here. So we expand out there. Yeah.
Let me stop you one momentarily, Dave, because you've introduced an idea that I haven't heard before, but I think it's really quite significant, because recruiters generally do go the opposite way. They go with a big pipe and they want to funnel down with a lot of filters because they can't manage 1,000 reviews. They know the maximum number of candidates that you can review in any one search, I think, is a couple hundred, guys. I mean, you let me know in the chat, like if you generated a search, at what point do you think you need to filter down? I think if you get more than 500, you're definitely filtering down. But the difference with AI is that it enables you to scale that out. 500 is no different from 5,000 to AI. It's no different from 50,000, presumably. So we've got to correct our thinking with the new tooling that's available, because it's almost like a second brain for us to be able to do more. That is hugely important. That's a rewiring of how search works from a recruiter perspective. So that's a really important point, folks. I'm going to think on that a little bit more. I would urge other people to think about it as well. Okay, David, I interrupted. Please continue.
Yeah, those are great points. This is the biggest opportunity that recruiters have to level up, and the narrowing down is, in my opinion, one of the biggest problems with sourcing right now, because you're just zooming in on people that have obvious keywords that are like the obvious fits that all the other recruiters compete with, but you miss all the people that aren't the obvious ones, all the passive candidates. So Endorsed is designed to catch all those. Um, so yeah, if we were to keep going forward here, we don't really have any filters up here. We just say, all right, all these job titles, if they just have 2 years of professional experience, they live in New York City, and they've worked at one startup within the last 2 years that's similar to our Series C company, so that we can have some notion of cultural fit. And that's it. So we have 2.8 thousand candidates here that we want to select, and we can have the AI review those in like 1 or 2 minutes. It's really quick. So then the question is, well, what do we want the AI to do when it's reviewing? So the AI is right now, we're reading the job description, and the AI is coming up with the criteria list. And this is the ideal candidate profile. We're trying to find that purple unicorn that the hiring manager says they want, and you just think, I don't know what keyword that is. There's not a keyword for this, but we can type that in now with AI and just plain English and have the AI search all these profiles. So we have one for tenure up top. We're looking at maybe they've worked at a similar company, and then the years of experience with software engineering and Python. Something years of experience is very hard to determine with most platforms today. And then one of the big ones to point out here is like, we want someone with 3 years of experience with API latency optimization and performance engineering. What is the keyword for that? And how many people that have that experience even write it on their profiles? Right? If you're looking for that, how do you do it? The beauty of Endorsed is you can say something like likely, so that we can lean on that AI intelligence to read the profile like the hiring manager would, or someone who's really a deep subject matter expert, and read between the lines and say, oh, okay, they have this experience, even though they don't say like API latency optimization as a keyword. Very, very important unlock.
How does the AI know that, David? Can you sort of dumb it down for us in layman's terms? Like how can the AI read between the lines?
Yeah, this is the big unlock with large language models like ChatGPT that just happened in 2023. That they can read like a human, and they've read the whole internet, so they actually understand the words. And on the that's the simple way of putting it. On the technical end, you're dealing with something called vectors, where it is like keyword association. They're like, okay, API is related to backend engineering, is related to this, that, but it's like really complex and ultimately results in the AI understanding things just like a human can. Yeah. So if we were to evaluate all these profiles now, and with the AI understanding things like a human subject matter expert does, then AI is reviewing this initial batch all one by one. So we're basically sending all of these pieces of criteria and all of these candidate profiles that are coming from LinkedIn and about 30 data sources that we're joining everyone together on, and just sending that all into these LLMs all at once. It's really crazy what's happening on the back end, but it results in a really accurate review where we're finding all these candidates that otherwise would be missing. So we see, all right, Rodrigo is someone who's meeting all of the criteria. And just to point out what happened, we just reviewed 500 profiles in like 15 seconds, right? And this is, again, like the AI is reading it like a human, but every single word. Versus it's not like a skim where, if you're skimming, it can be easy to miss things. But every word about the profile, and also the company that all of the detail about each company that every person's worked at. So
A scan read. I mean, Dave, what is the stat, folks? 7 seconds per resume or profile is the average a human being would read if they're flicking through. I think sometimes it's even less than that, because we're not reading; we're literally doing a screenshot on our, with our eyes, and then pattern matching as quickly as we can, and then flipping through. That is not what is happening with AI. It's actually forensically going through every single character in all of the document, all of the artifact, and then making a decision based on that. So I think you're right. It probably does read better than a human by some long way. To be fair.
yeah, and it's not to say that recruiters aren't good at reading profiles. It's just to say that the amount of time constraint that you have to do your job, you just have to move fast. There's no way around it, especially like on resume review, which we're going to talk about. It's like, how do you review 1,000 resumes? You have to move pretty quick. And this ends up resulting in a lot of just kind of keyword matching, even like you're filtering to do keyword matching, but then recruiters are also just like, all right, where's the keywords that I'm looking for, which is really lossy. It can just be easy to miss, and we don't want to miss. So AI
And
helps you not.
easy to game as well, folks. We know smart sort of candidates, no keyword stuffing. I mean, basically SEO has taught everyone how to keyword stuff. And resumes have generally been, I would say, polluted with keyword stuffing over a long period of time already. So that doesn't help us. That just creates more noise when we're trying to pick out signal. Got an interesting question here from in LinkedIn. James Temple, thank you for the question. James is asking, can you share how Endorsed handle empty or anemic profiles? So I'm guessing sparsity of profiles. Like, does it make an assessment negatively against things that are uncompleted? How do you do the ranking there? Like, for instance, Rodrigo, if he had like a sparse profile, is he downranked on that, or do you not downrank based on completeness?
Yeah, this is a great point because this is the biggest problem with like current keyword search and filtering on LinkedIn is that candidates that don't have a lot listed on their profile aren't found, and we want to find those people. Um, so to talk about how Endorsed does this, it's basically looking at like associations, and because you're reading the details about that company, you can figure things out. Like an example of this would be like, say you're looking for a React engineer, and the person says, I'm a front end engineer at Meta, nothing else listed on their profile. Well, if you know about Meta, you know that they invented React. They're the whole app's the front end's in React, so that person's writing React. Um, so that's like a really simple example of one way that the AI can determine it. Another is say someone's looking for like, I want to find someone who's sold to CFOs. Well,
Mm.
you see that, all right, this person's a salesperson at a company that has a financial product that is high level and they sell to CFOs. So you can just read details about the company to do that research, which this is what a recruiter could do manually too if they were doing the research on each candidate. It's just like if you have 7 seconds to read the profile, you can't do manual research on every single company that every candidate worked at. The AI can. So that's how it gets you that unlock.
Yeah, really good. James, I hope that's answered your question. By the way, folks, just fire the questions in. Anybody that has any questions as we go through, I'm going to pick them up and we're going to try and just field them as we go. So go ahead, David.
So yeah, so going back to this notion of how do we find more candidates, screening candidates, how do we find people with people that don't have the keyword who we're looking for, but have the experience. So if we're looking at this API latency optimization one, how do we find that? Well, the AI is explaining why this candidate has it, which is uh, also just as important as them actually having it. Because if the recruiter doesn't see and understand why the AI is calling them a good fit, they don't get advanced. So we're very focused on making sure the recruiter can understand the AI and making the AI a partner in the recruitment process. In this case, it's saying, okay, this this person has extensive experience, with loading speed improvements, 500%, an audience builder. They've worked on API heavy platforms, so they probably have the experience you're looking for, and you can catch this person. So that's why it's saying Rodrigo's rate. And then, so what is grow therapy? It's like weird icon there. I have no idea what this is. Is it a good startup? I don't know. So if we're to look at growth therapy, you just mouse over the company name and you can see what the AI is read in the company. And this is a startup that's Series C startup backed by Sequoia, which is widely recognized as the best investor in the world after seed stage. So this person's probably pretty talented with the startup experience and has the API experience that we're looking for.
And I'm
So
presuming the reason why it's got like a non-logo there is probably because they have either misspelt the name of the business slightly, or it's not like the canonical name of the with on LinkedIn's database, which is why it's not pulled it in.
yeah, potentially, or they have that weird logo. I actually haven't even seen this on any other profile where it just has this head.
Don't tell me that if that's growth therapy's logo, I apologize to the designer. It's perfectly fine, but it looks like a placeholder right now.
It's probably a placeholder, but yeah. But yeah, it's like, how do you know with this company, even if it did have a good logo, it's like would you know? Yeah, yeah. So we're seeing all this company info. We see that Rodrigo's good fit here. We found this candidate where we didn't accidentally screen them out because we didn't know the company. Um, and then what we can do is also say, maybe when I was reviewing, I'm like, you know what? The hiring manager really wants someone who has that 0 to 1 experience. This is like their purple unicorn. And what in the world would you do in a keyword search if you were trying to find 0 to 1 experience? I have no idea. But with AI, you can just say, has built software from scratch and has 0 to 1 experience. And then the AI can read all these profiles and find the people that have that. You can see how fast the system can re-review everyone. Again, this is like 500 people, and it's going to re-review everyone to find this unique experience here in a few seconds, and be able to tell us who has it. So we're seeing some new candidates in this case that have the experience. We're going to look. All right, well, let's see why the AI says that they have that experience. Okay, building software from the ground up, including core systems at these early stage startups. Then if you look down at the profiles, you'll see that that's the case. So we'll shortlist him as well. Next thing is candidate outreach. So how do you contact these people? Um,
Uh, Another question coming in. I think this is an obvious one. I should have asked it myself, but it might be good for you to say it. Where are you getting these candidates from, David? I'm assuming that they're public profiles. You just aggregated them out. Is that correct?
yeah, exactly. They're public profiles that are on the internet. You're getting like a LinkedIn base, and then we're joining in a bunch of other data sources. Like you can see up here on the right on Rodrigo's profile, like we have this GitHub and all these other kind of data sources and data points. We also have like
Yeah.
funding data pulled in as well, where you can read the latest funding info in companies. So yeah, that's how it's all happening. So you should have
Yeah.
yeah
Thank you.
yeah yeah. So you should have a wider breadth of profiles and information on Endorsed than on maybe like a dedicated recruitment platform per se. So yeah, that said, outreach. So we pull their personal emails, we grab those, and then you can do outreach with them through a multi-touch email campaign. So you can set your first email. If the candidate doesn't reply, you can automatically have a follow-up get set. And this is really good because a lot of people just use LinkedIn for outreach. This is a whole nother channel. So you can boost your response rate on top candidates if you aim at outreaching through multiple channels, or you can reduce a lot of expenses that may be coming from other channels that you're using something like Endorse. So we have this outreach system, and then show you what that looks like on the reporting end. We also show you what's the status of each candidate, what are the aggregate statistics on these people on outreach. So that's the reporting layer.
And
Uh,
this defaults to their personal email, which you've pulled in, probably from GitHub, I assume. Or like, how do I select different channels? Is it possible for me to say, okay, first message, let's go LinkedIn. Second message, I actually want to go on link. Sorry, I want to go on email. Is that a possibility?
Good question. Right now, it's all email based, but we're going to add multiple channels here in the future.
Got it.
Yeah. So that's sourcing and outreach, and then the next things will go into your app review and fraud detection. So with app review, one of the really unique things about Endorsed is that it can answer the question of how good is my applicant pool relative to the rest of the market. I don't know any other platform that could truly answer that question. And the reason being is because we've just set this bar that's scoring all those candidates, and those scores are just based on the criteria that you enter. You know, if you say looking for these five things and they meet four of the five, that's an 80. So it's like you are the algorithm. And if we go over to the applicant's view here, we can use the exact same criteria to do the review. So it's much more objective across both the applicant pool and sourcing, and really good for end-to-end recruiters too, because they're calibrating the hiring manager once, working with the hiring manager, and then they can just point the AI to review for them in any direction. So we'll see the AI start to review our applicants here, and you'll notice it's a very similar interface, nearly the same interface. And the AI is just searching across the same criteria and looking to find our best fits. And to just talk about the problems this is solving too, and just retouch on like why even have an AI review applicants if it's not obvious. Right now, like if you get hundreds of thousands of applicants in the pool, it's very easy to miss the best hires in there. You know, you don't know if the best hire is number 10, 100, or like 500 or 900. They get buried. We see this all the time. And the problem with them getting buried is obviously that you know, maybe you don't make the best hire in the stack, but maybe you do find them, and then your competition's already given them an offer by the time that you can even interview them. So John Velasquez has a really good post who created the Amazon Bar Raiser program, where he says that hiring quality and speed are very intertwined, because to get the best people, you need to be fast and have a really fast process. And I think applicant review is one of the most uh, quintessential examples of this, where if you can't find that person and interview them fast and get them an offer, your competition is. So Endorse enables you to see the best fits at the top of the stack immediately and get them into the interview pipeline. So your time to advance those applicants it should be no longer than a day every time if you just log in.
Quick one, David. How does Endorse see those candidates? Like, is it connected? You mentioned it sits on top of the ATS. So, is it kind of screen, for instance, a pre-acquired candidates within the ATS and do it that way, or do I need to stick it into an inbox that's taking in job ad response?
Yeah, good question. So we have a really tight bidirectional sync with your ATSs. So say you're using Greenhouse, you have 1,000 applicants that come in on a job you just posted a few days ago. Endorse automatically just syncs all those in, and you see all the applicants here. You see the custom screening questions here. It's integrating into Endorse is like 2 minutes to connect your Greenhouse, and then everything just syncs.
Can you quickly, I mean, what kind of ATSs have you connected with? Can you give us a quick sort of shoot out a few names that you've worked with that Endorsed have connected with?
Yeah. So the ATS integrations, it's not binary in the sense that there's a depth of integration that can happen, and because we have such deep integrations, we focused on the deep integrations being Ashby, Greenhouse, and Lever to start. So you can kind of use Endorsed with other ATSs, and we have a list of roughly 50, 58 or 60 ATSs that you can kind of use it. But if you really want a really tight experience that's seamless, those are the three.
Yeah, fair enough. And Ashby, by the way, congratulations on Ashby raising, I think, $50 million, I think, today. So at least announced today. So well done to all of our friends over at Ashby. Fantastic stuff. Okay, continue, David. Sorry to keep interrupting, but I'm fascinated by the stuff you're showing.
Yeah. These are great questions. I'm glad you're asking. So yeah, we're we're here. Endorsed has reviewed these candidates, found Yuan here, who's the top fit so far, and to just go through what is like the interface that is here. Of course, we have the resume on the right, and we can see the resume here. We also have LinkedIn profile. So this is really big because to do a proper resume review and really look at someone, you need to know who the companies are they're working at. And the only way you can really figure that out is like string search, copy paste the name in Google, look around in Google, look at their LinkedIn, look at like the Crunchbase. Endorse pulls all that information in and then feeds it into the AI. So not only can you see it just like you could on sourcing, the AI can read all of it. So you can do app review and say things like worked at a developer tooling company or like worked at a company of this size at this stage. Any company related queries all work, even if the applicant says nothing about their company, which seems to be the case with most of them. Uh, so say, Yuan's good, we've advanced Yuan. Yuan's synced back into our ATS. So that bidirectional deep sync is here where they're automatically advance their stage, and then email automations are also triggered. So you don't have to go back and forth between Endorsed and your ATS at all. You can just do all your talent app review sourcing there, and then shift down funnel and into your ATS to handle like interviews and subsequent stages.
Yeah, so basically, just to be clear, where do you stop and where does the ATS begin, David? Are you clear on that? And can you tell us sort of what where you kind of delineate your product?
Yeah, we stop at the applicant review layer here. So we don't have an AI interviewer or anything like that. We're not doing candidate scheduling. Like we are focused on building the best talent search in the world. So you can find the best people and get the best hires. And use what is also uniquely human to help make sure that you can attract those people and get them in your funnel. So that's really where Endorse is focused.
Yeah, perfect. Talent acquisition, folks. Literally, what it means is basically top of funnel. We're going to find the candidates. We're going to engage with them. We're going to get them in the pipe. But then when it comes to interviews and what have you, that's when it goes into its internal data at that point, and that's when it's handled by ATS and so on. Clear.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Very good.
Yep. So the one of the last things I'll show on the applicant review front before we get to fraud is the is how do you manage the 1,000 applicants? Like you can find the best people pretty easily, quickly, speed up your hiring, higher quality hire. But how do you have a good candidate experience? And this is, of course, one of the biggest concerns with people with using AI at all is how do you ideally create a better candidate experience versus one that's worse. One of the worst things to happen for applicants is if they just don't get responses at all. They're like, well, do I focus my job search elsewhere or not? How do I know? And if you're a recruiter with 1,000 applicants on each one of your jobs, it's just impossible in most cases to really get to people and get to people fast. A lot of these jobs just get left open for months. So with Endorse, one of the really powerful things here is you can turn any piece of criteria into a filter. So you can create your own filters to be anything that you can articulate. So say here we want to lock in on them having 4 years of experience in software engineering with some Python experience. And that's like the minimum bar. If they don't have that, there's no way it's going to work for the most part. We can isolate that talent pool down almost like a knockout filter, but it's even more accurate than a knockout question because you're like objectively reviewing the profile and you also can do it after the fact. You don't have to like preliminarily set that up when you don't know how many applicants you're going to have. And then the AI filters these candidates down. We can see, okay, in this case, the scores are really low, as well as them not having that baseline experience. They're missing a lot of different pieces of criteria. We can spot check some of these profiles to see, okay, are some of the top fits good or not? And if they're really below the bar, what you can do is responsibly and carefully do a bulk action on them to reject those applicants, which syncs back to the ATS. The email automations go off there, and then these candidates can know that they need to focus their job search elsewhere instead of just not getting replies, and they can know more quickly as well, even if you theoretically could get through the whole stack, which is advantageous for everyone. So that's how
I've got A question on filters, David. I mean, but possibly you shouldn't even call them filters because it's not like a classic filtration thing where it's locked down to what it is. Natural input, you can sort of talk to it and say, and then it creates a filter. Can I sort of use searches such as, look, I only want to see women, for instance, or I only want to see people who can speak Spanish? Is there any kind of guardrails behind how you what kind of inputs are allowed in there? Or do you think, okay, we've got to trust the user to use common sense and also to kind of operate under the compliance and jurisdictions of whatever sort of country that they're operating in?
Yeah, good question. So we have a flag if someone types in something that's like against EEOC guidelines or is going to cause bias in the search. Say, hey, this is maybe not something you want to write in there, and the AI is basically policing that. But that said, we're not trying to be like the absolute like we can recommend what to do, but we're not trying to build a platform that is like completely locking down what people can search for because maybe you need someone to speak Spanish for customers, or maybe you're uh, a women's organization where you're actually needing to find women, or same thing with like a person of a certain ethnicity or race. That could be something that's important to you. And some platforms have diversity filters, which are kind of like broad filters, but you could say that this person's likely to be a woman if you're trying to recruit for your women's organization. Endorsed will flag it and say, hey, this is bias, but if you want to still proceed, we don't think it's right for us to police and say you can't. So we let you do that.
Yeah, thanks for handling that tough question, David. This is actually a challenge in recruiting, so it's not a vendor problem in my opinion. How do you go ahead and recruit for, let's say, a diverse pipeline? This is all something we do want to do, but oftentimes we have to apply what feels like discriminatory practice in order to do that. Friends who've been recruiting for a long time, you might know people like Irina Shamaeva before she retired. She was a great sourcing teacher. She used to sort of have a huge Boolean string of women's names, basically, that you could put into LinkedIn and generate female candidates for engineering roles. So, that kind of behavior looks like it's technically permitted in endorsed, even though you're going to provide guidance as to what the user is actually doing and flag it up to them. I think that's probably the right approach. Let me know, folks, what you think about this. Would you like to have more constraint on tooling, or do you think ultimately a user has to control it? Let me know in the comments. Carry on, David. Sorry.
Yeah. No, these are really great questions. And yeah, I'm glad people are asking them and are so engaged. So the last thing I want to touch on is just fraud. Candidate fraud is accelerating at the pace of AI. It's becoming more of a problem. Fascinating topic on the originations of a lot of this fraud too. But we want to catch these candidates and make sure that recruiters don't advance them, or at least take a better look. Because the thing that'll really kill a lot of time is if you're interviewing and half the people you interview are fraudulent, and then it's 30 minutes each time that you could be saving. So while there are tools to detect fraud in interviews, if you want to run the most efficient recruiting organization, you need to catch fraud before the interviews and not advance those people. So we flag all the suspicious looking profiles in app review and call out different fraud signals. We're looking at a lot of different fraud signals, and we'll call them out. And like one of the obvious ones is, well, they just created their LinkedIn profile and they have 10 years of experience, and they're not like a security engineer who's notoriously scrubs their internet presence. That looks kind of suspicious. Maybe you should take another look. Missing the profile picture, low connection count. Like there are all these signals that stack together and give you this picture of whether or not a candidate is likely to be fraudulent or not. So we look at all those and just encourage you to
Good
take a look.
question, David. Is low connection count an absolute figure, or is it relative to role? Like, for instance, are you saying, look, it's anybody below 500 potentially, it would increase the risk of that being flagged? Or are you saying, you know what, if you're a recruiter, well, less than 500 connections, probably that's a bad sign, right? So, is it relative or objective? I guess is the flag on low connection count.
Yeah, I mean it's relative. Like you see a lot of CEOs like don't have a lot of like more experienced CEOs don't have a lot of connections. They're I guess that they don't need them in many cases. So you have a lot of roles where there's low connection count, which is more common. But again, it's like all the signals put together. It's not like even if you had a recruiter that had 100 200 connections, maybe they're a recruiter in another country and they don't use LinkedIn as much or something like that. Like there are all sorts of reasons that one signal shouldn't be like end all be all to determine fraud. Um, so yeah, it's relative, and we also stack that in on multiple signals to determine the likeliness of fraud.
Hmm.
Yeah. Um,
Very interesting.
yeah.
I think tools like this, I mean, obviously fraud, candidate fraud has become a topic in 2025 in recruiting, probably reaching its apogee a couple of weeks ago. I don't know whether you were aware of the story. You must have been, because it was a very much a YC story, which was let me just get off the thing here. It was a YC story, where basically we had a hang on, let me just see if I can get myself back on here. How do I do that? All right, whilst I'm fiddling with that, you can just look at David. He's a more important and better looking guy anyway. But it was the guy called Soham Parek or something, and he had like he basically had what 5 or 6 jobs concurrently, even though he was working surreptitiously. So in other words, the employers thought that he was just their employee. Actually, he had multiple jobs working remotely. All blew up. He was exposed by, I think, a VC guy, and said literally named him, and it just blew up on the internet. And yeah, people are now aware that actually shift to remote has really expanded the risk exposure for companies that are hiring for these engineers, which oftentimes work remotely. So yeah, very very pertinent. How much of the product do you think this is going to be? Just, I mean, I'm interested to know. Have you got out there? Has there been like demand level? What can you tell us about the demand level on fraud? Is that there yet, or are people still saying, you know what, I need sourcing, that's the main thing?
It's spread out. It's very different across companies. The fraud is really consolidated on like remote engineering roles that you're going to see. So if you're doing a remote engineering role, it's like 75% of the time we see those customers having fraud roughly, and then the amount of fraud could be anything from like 75% of applicants to maybe like only 10%. But if you're hiring in-person roles, the fraud level is generally pretty low, because it's hard for fraudsters to get by like in person situations. Um, so yeah, it's fairly isolated to the remote engineering roles and different per company.
Yeah, really good. It's going to be, I think, very interesting to see how this sort of plays out. I think the fraud aspect is going to increase. The behaviors and techniques are going to diffuse. The truth is, it's effective. If it helps people get through what they think is an assault course, and there's a disrespect of the process. And they're very motivated to get through these things, then these techniques we need to be aware of. We need to talk a little bit about the legislation side. What are we talking? How are you dealing with questions people I might ask? Hey, how are you dealing with data privacy? Are people giving consent to be on there? Are you prepared to show sort of information to those people if they request it? What if someone comes back and say, actually, I've been unfairly ranked in your recommendation system? What are you doing? Have you thought about any of that, or are you guys still too early to handle those specific legal use cases?
Yeah, I mean, I can talk about like the AI bias portion, and then also just the data privacy and compliance. And yeah, from the bias perspective, like we run through annual bias audits every year. We make sure we pass all those and are compliant on all those fronts. Take that super seriously. And then as far as the data privacy and security goes, like we run all of the kind of penetration tests and make sure that our system's locked down. If someone wants to delete their data from our system, they can submit a request on that. And as far as the algorithm score, the important thing to reinforce with Endorsed in particular is like every AI system has their own way to come up with a score. And it's everything from like a black box algorithm where you can't control the score at all to I have full control over the score and like I am the algorithm. Endorsed is very much on the kind of the furthest end of the spectrum of like you controlling the score. So if a candidate's a low score, it's because the recruiter's saying, this is the stuff I care about, and they're a low score. So it's meant to match the recruiter's mind. So like whatever the score is in Endorsed, we're trying to match what the score would be in the recruiter's mind closely. But but yeah, on the candidate end, the score is different for every job too, and like the recruiter's constantly iterating on the criteria, so it's really like not a static score at all. So we haven't had any candidates that have like seen their score necessarily since the recruiter tool, but it's kind of the way
And disputed it. So it's not an objective score per se, it's a fit score to the requirements that have been inputted by that recruiter, and probably all that contextual information, location, type of company, stage of company, etc., etc. And presumably that fit score will improve as more information becomes ingested and the AI gets more sophisticated. So yeah, very interesting indeed. Question for you, a meta question for you, actually, David. What's the most frequently asked question that you get from people who you've demoed the product to? What is that?
one that we get pretty frequently is like, all right, well, what is kind of the difference? Like I've seen systems where you can plug in criteria like this. Like, what is actually the difference? Um, and the real difference is like the uh, this is gonna sound woo-woo, not like it makes sense at first, but it like the underlying philosophy and workflow that we built around is fundamentally different. Where you are the manager of AI agents, you're having this broad filter on app review, and then you're using these AIs to review your applicants and your sourcing funnel. And the thing that we can see is, firstly, we actually pioneered this method. There wasn't anyone doing it before we were. Like probably seen this on like ATSs. There's some other sourcing tools that have it. Like ours has been built and refined way before theirs. Why does this matter? Because to do this really effectively and have the AIs be like something you can trust and rely on, it has to be accurate, super accurate across complex queries like you've seen here. It has to be fast. So like you saw, it's like reviewing about 1,000 resumes in 30 seconds. If you use any of these other tools, it's going to take about 10 minutes to review that many. Why is that a problem? Because you need to calibrate the AI, figure out what you're looking for, and the most power is going through this cycles really fast. And then nextly, it has to be cost effective, so you can run the AI through thousands of profiles, on public records and figure out who the best fits are. So the amount of focus on that workflow and understanding the new way that recruiters are going to do recruiting and being able to pioneer that is really the key difference. If you're partnering with us, you're partnering with someone who's not just looking at like LinkedIn and saying, how do I wrap this in AI? It's really like you're partnering with people who are rethinking the entire workflow of recruiting and how that is now going to be AI native and how you can really level up your workforce.
Yeah, really interesting. Let's move on to this. I mean, I think the technology endorsed and all of the competition is there. It's all racing towards producing this recruiter enablement. It's going to make recruitment faster. What do you think the sort of with the excess time that's going to be created as a result of using tools of this type? Where would you think that recruiters might then remodel their job once a lot of this stuff has been taken care of? For instance, for sourcing, I can tell you as a person that, literally is my experience as an operator recruiter is now 10 years ago, even further back. So this is pre-AI of any type. That was laborious to go through 500 candidates, generate that. That'd probably take me half a day, if not full day. Day gone. Now you're showing me this. It can be done in seconds. What am I going to do with the excess time, David? What's your thoughts as to how the recruiter job gets remodeled with Endorsed?
Yeah, definitely. So every company can use the time in different ways. Maybe this is a startup that's growing super fast and they can get more mileage out of their current team. Their current team can handle more recs. It's also a case where uh, maybe you want to raise your talent bar and actually recruit better people. Like the way that I personally would use this is like I want the best team I can get. So I want to know, A, who are the best people out there? And then who do I spend all my time convincing to join? So like a lot of systems out there, you can see, um, say, all right, well, we can have an AI agent that'll email, a thousand candidates, 100 candidates, and just automate that whole outreach sequence. Well, humans fundamentally want to know that other humans are interested in them. It's not like you just personalize a message and then, oh, it checks the boxes, I'm going to respond. Like people are really vetting for like, did a machine write this or a human? And the bar is now raised with AI. It's like the way that I would use Endorsed is I would narrow down, like figure out who calibrate the AI a ton to figure out who the best people I want to recruit are, and then just spend all my energy convincing those people to join in multiple different channels, super personalized outreach, doing those things that are uniquely human, which is showing that another human and group of humans wants you to join their company. So that's the way I'd use it. Everyone could use it in different ways, but um, it's it's going to be one of those things where I think this is the really important thing with thinking about what is the evolution of recruiters' jobs in AI too, which is what is the new workflow that's going to be enabled through all these tools.
Yeah, and I think we need to embrace these changes, guys. It's not like we observe this and then dismiss it. This is coming, this is here already. If you're not using tools like this, then someone else is gonna, and you're gonna get beat. So I think we need to rush into this. And then we've got to really lean into what the human premium is. There's gonna be a point where your ability to help your business differentiate from the competition is going to be based on all other types of things. How are you communicating? How are you representing? Can you learn more about sort of the candidate population than your competition? Are you more credible? All of those things. Do you have the domain knowledge? Can you talk about the career path and the development of this of the jobs you're recruiting for? All of those things, I think, are going to be the differentiating factors for recruiters once they become enabled in this way. Fantastic stuff, David. Tell us what the roadmap is. Okay, so 6 months down the line, let's say I'm a happy endorsed customer. What goodies am I expecting down the pipe in 6 months' time, David?
Yeah, sure. So there are a lot of surprises. I'll share some of them. Generally, the way that we're thinking about this is like there should be one talent search interface that just searches everywhere. And right now, it's very isolated. It's like, where do I want to hire? Some engineers are on GitHub, some are on Stack Overflow, some are here or there. We want to unify all that, and then also have deep data so you can keep finding these undiscovered candidates, which even endorsed right now in its current form, finding way more undiscovered candidates, but it's still the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more data to integrate into the platform. So we want to build the best talent search platform where you can find those people, know that they're the best too if you see them, and then also just be able to plan a long-term path to building your company and having like a long-term talent strategy, which is very aligned internally, and you have the data to do that, and that you can execute on with extreme efficiency. So everything we're building kind of fits into that umbrella.
Yeah, fantastic. Let's ask some tough questions in terms of commercial stuff, David. How much this cost me, man? What's the model?
Yeah. So it starts off at a $300 a month plan, which gives you app review and sourcing. So you can use that. We don't care where you point the AI. You set it up, and it can go in any channel. So it starts with that, and then we have growth plans, which are for more rapidly growing startups, where you can get better value and add more people to that plan. And then of course there's like enterprise level when you have just like extreme hand holding, higher security requirements, and that sort of thing, which we do all those on just a custom basis, and everyone kind of has different needs that we fit the plan into their recruitment strategy, so it's most cost effective.
Yeah, fantastic stuff. And is that a per seat number, David? Like for instance, like one user has access to that unlimited jobs they can search for 1 month, 300 and plus dollars, did you say?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, so it's what one seed is yeah 300. And so it's not the cheapest platform out there. It's we're using way more AI under the hood that than anyone else out there, which requires the price being a little bit higher. But you're getting that leverage back and finding way more candidates. You're moving faster. We're seeing like 2 to 3x increases in recruiter capacity once people are like fully leveraging the tool. So it's a little bit more expensive in that regard, but you're going to get way more value out of it than anything else because of the AI capabilities.
Fantastic stuff. David Head, thank you so much for going through the demo of the product. Really fascinating. Always better to hear it from the horse's mouth. I mean, there'll come a point in time, hopefully not so long, where you get someone else doing the demos and stuff like this, and you'll step back from it. But wonderful to see the founder talk through the vision and see it realized on sort of on screen. So thank you very much, David. Um, okay, let's leave it there. I mean, a final word to the audience out there. What's the message that you have for people who've made it this far? They're watching this, they're intrigued, they're interested. What's the one thing you want to impart on them before we finish the show?
Yeah, I mean, the big thing is I want recruiters to be as successful as possible in their careers and just really learn to ride this wave of AI and be able to level up. So I encourage you to uh, change the mentality from I'm an applicant reviewer and a candidate reviewer to I am a manager of AI agents that can do this for me. And if you want to try Endorsed out to see what that's looks like, you can go to endorsed.com and sign up. We have free trials on the pro plan as well for 7 days. So yeah, I look forward to helping everyone boost their recruiting careers and help organizations boost their recruiting functions.
Fantastic stuff. David Head, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thanks for having me. This is fun.
Wasn't that great, folks? I mean, listen, as I say, I'm old in the tooth as a recruiter, but back in the day, you wonder what you could have achieved when you had tooling of this type. I mean, AI sort of movement into the world of talent acquisition, I think is very normal, very natural. And I just expect it's going to completely change like a significant component of the job, you know. And we've got a very exciting, dynamic, but challenging future ahead. We've got to embrace the moment. Let's get into this tech. Let's rethink and remodel the jobs, and let's level up into the AI-enabled future. Okay, that's it. We'll be back in touch. We're always on Brainfood Live, of course. We're back on Friday. We're going to be talking about strategic workforce planning. Make sure you join us for that. And thank you for watching today. It's been a pleasure having you. We'll see you next time.